"Are you insane, Captain? That's suicide." Master Sergeant Cole's voice echoed in the tense lab, sharp with disbelief. He pointed a rigid finger at the bomb, pulsing with an unholy light. He was mocking Captain Rostova's suggestion for a manual check. Cole trusted his $3 million robot, not her gut feeling. He was about to learn that some legends are forged in fire. Before I tell you what he saw that made him freeze, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. The story unfolds deep inside a naval weapons station, in a reinforced concrete box they call the vault. The vault wasn't a place for comfort. It was a sterile, cold tomb of polished steel and humming electronics, deep beneath the earth. The air tasted recycled, thin, and carried the faint, sharp smell of ozone from the servers that lined the walls. This was where they brought the nightmares, the things that went boom in ways no one had ever seen before. And today's nightmare had a name, Pandora. It didn't look like a bomb. There were no bundles of wires, no crude timer strapped to blocks of C4. Pandora was sleek, black, and unnervingly quiet. It sat on a pedestal in the center of a glass-walled containment chamber, a seamless obsidian egg that seemed to absorb the cold LED light around it. It pulsed with a soft, internal blue glow, more like a piece of alien technology than a weapon. The initial scans were a mess of contradictions. It had a chemical component, a powerful explosive core, but also an energy signature that was completely off the charts, something that looked designed to fry every piece of electronics in a 5-mile radius. This was the puzzle laid before Master Sergeant Cole's EOD team. And Cole loved puzzles, especially ones he could solve with his new toy. He was a legend in the explosive ordnance disposal community, a man with nerves of steel and 2 decades of successful defusals under his belt. But lately, that experience had curdled into arrogance. He'd become a true believer, a disciple of technology. He talked about his new Hellhound 3 bomb disposal robot like a proud father. To Cole, the human element was becoming a liability, a weak link of sweaty palms and shaky hands. His job was to manage the tech that did the real work. And then there was Captain Eva Rostova. She was new, a recent transfer who didn't fit in. While the rest of the team traded war stories and jokes, she was quiet, almost invisible. She spent her time in a corner of the workshop, not running diagnostics on the new gear, but meticulously cleaning and calibrating a set of tools that looked like they belonged in a museum. They were strange, elegant instruments made of non-conductive ceramic and titanium, each nestled in a worn leather roll. The team gave her a wide berth. They didn't know what to make of the silent captain with the intense, focused eyes. The initial briefing was held in the control room overlooking the containment chamber. General Maddox, a stern-faced man with 2 stars on his collar, was there to observe. His presence made the already thick tension almost unbearable. Cole was in his element, confidently pointing at the holographic display showing Pandora schematics. The Hellhound's multi-spectrum sensors will penetrate the casing and give us a clear picture of the trigger mechanism, he explained, his voice booming with practiced authority. We'll be in and out in 30 minutes. That's when Rostova spoke for the first time. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room's hum like a scalpel. Sir, the energy signature has an asymmetric waveform. It's irregular. All eyes turned to her. She was staring at a secondary screen, displaying raw energy data. What are you saying, Captain? General Maddox asked, his eyes narrowing. Rostova met his gaze. I'm saying the data suggests an active countermeasure system. The energy field is reactive. Deploying a machine with a heavy electronic footprint into that field without a preliminary manual diagnostic is inadvisable. Cole let out a short, sharp laugh of disbelief. Manual diagnostic? Captain, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. This isn't the Stone Age. We don't poke bombs with sticks anymore. The Hellhound is a $3 million piece of hardware. It can handle a little irregular energy. He turned to the general, dismissing her completely. Sir, my team and I trust the data. And the data says the robot can do the job. He shot Rostova a look that was pure ice. We don't operate on gut feelings here. Rostova said nothing. She just gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod and faded back into the corner, her face unreadable. But Specialist Riley, the youngest on the team, saw her glance at her old tool roll, a strange, determined look in her eyes that sent a shiver down his spine. The battle lines had been drawn. It was Cole's technology against a quiet captain's intuition. The briefing ended with Cole's sharp, confident command. Prep the Hellhound. Let's show the general how it's done. The control room, a semicircular theater of glowing screens, buzzed with activity. Through the thick, blast-proof glass, the Hellhound 3 robot began to move. It was a marvel of engineering, a 6-wheeled tactical machine that moved with an eerie, arachnid grace. Its primary manipulator arm, tipped with a dozen different sensors and tools, extended towards the containment chamber door. Cole sat at the master console, a cocky smile playing on his lips as he deftly maneuvered the machine with a pair of joysticks. He felt like a concert pianist, a maestro conducting a symphony of technology. Entering the containment field now, he announced, his voice smooth and professional for the general's benefit. On the main screen, the camera feed from the Hellhound showed Pandora growing larger, its blue light pulsing like a sleeping heart. But on the secondary monitors, the ones displaying the raw data, something was wrong. The neat, predictable sine waves of the energy readings began to flicker. Spikes of static jumped across the graphs. We're getting some minor interference, Cole said, his voice a little tighter. The field is causing some sensor calibration drift. It's normal. From her corner, Rostova stepped forward, her eyes locked on the data streams. She spoke quietly, almost a whisper, to Specialist Riley, who was monitoring the comms link. It's not interference. It's a handshake. Riley looked at her, confused. What? The bomb is communicating with the robot, she explained, her voice low and urgent. It's learning its frequencies, its protocols. It's like a predator tasting the air. Riley felt a cold dread creep up his neck. That was insane. Bombs don't learn. But as he looked back at his screen, he saw the data wasn't just chaotic anymore. It was starting to form a strange, repeating pattern, almost like the robot's own diagnostic signal was being mirrored back at it. I'm losing fine motor control, Cole grunted, his knuckles white on the joysticks. The robot's arm was twitching erratically. Damn it, rerouting power to stabilize. He was so focused on wrestling with the machine that he didn't see what Rostova saw. A tiny, hairline crack of red light had appeared on the bomb's smooth black surface. It wasn't a crack in the casing. It was a light from within, and as she watched, it grew longer. Sir, you need to pull it back now. Rostova's voice was sharp, a command, not a suggestion. It startled everyone. Cole shot her a furious glare. I know what I'm doing, Captain. He was sweating now, his arrogance starting to fray. He was losing control, and he was doing it in front of General Maddox. He mashed a button, trying to override the system. That's when it happened. The red light on the bomb flashed once brightly, and on its surface, a previously invisible LCD panel flickered to life, displaying glowing red numbers. 10 o'clock, 9:59, 9:58, a countdown. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the control room. What the hell? Cole stammered. The scan showed no timer mechanism. It didn't have one, Rostova said, her voice grim. You gave it one. The robot's clock signal just armed a dormant trigger. The room was silent except for the frantic beeping of the failing robot's alerts and the steady, terrifying tick of the countdown on the main screen. Cole's face had gone pale. The symphony was over. The monster was awake, and he was the one who had opened the cage. The general looked from the screen to Cole's panicked face, then to the unnervingly calm captain in the corner. The balance of power in the room had begun to shift. Panic is a cold, fast-moving liquid. In seconds, it had flooded the control room. Cole was frantically trying to get the Hellhound to respond, but it was no use. The robot was spasming on the screen, its arm twitching like a dying insect. I can't get it to retreat. It's not responding, he yelled, his voice cracking. The timer on Pandora kept ticking down, relentless. 8:45, 8:44. General Maddox was barking orders into his radio. Give me a full evacuation plan for this sector now. What's the blast radius? Cole, desperate, decided to force the issue. He engaged the robot's failsafe. a powerful hydraulic claw designed to grip and remove an object by force. "If I can't disarm it, I'll drag it out of there," he growled, sweat beading on his forehead. "Sir, don't," Rostova shouted, taking a step forward. "You'll trigger the core defense." But it was too late. On the screen, the claw lunged forward and clamped down on Pandora. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the bomb flashed. It wasn't red this time, but a blinding, silent blue-white light that overloaded the camera, turning the screen to pure white static. In the control room, the lights flickered violently and then died. Every screen, every console, every humming server went black. The world was plunged into absolute darkness and a terrifying, profound silence. A heartbeat later, the emergency power kicked in. The room was bathed in the hellish, pulsing red glow of the backup lights. A single, piercing alarm began to shriek. Every piece of advanced technology in the vault was dead. Cole stared at the blank master console, his mouth hanging open in shock. The Hellhound was a $3 million corpse. What just happened? Riley stammered from the darkness. An EMP. Rostova's voice cut through the chaos, steady as a rock. Electromagnetic pulse. It just fried every circuit in this facility. She was already moving, grabbing a heavy-duty flashlight from an emergency locker. She shone the beam into the containment chamber. The Hellhound was slumped over, smoke curling from its joints. And Pandora was still there. Its internal blue light was gone, but the red LCD timer was still active, burning brightly in the gloom. And the numbers were moving much, much faster. 1:30, 1:29. The pulse had shorted the timer's capacitor, accelerating the countdown. 90 seconds. That's all they had left. The room was frozen in a state of collective shock. Cole was paralyzed. General Maddox was speechless. They were trapped in a concrete tomb with a ticking time bomb, and all their technology was worthless. "Open the chamber door," Rostova said. The command was so calm, so absolute, it broke the spell. A terrified technician fumbled for the manual release lever. "Captain, you can't." Cole finally found his voice. "There's nothing you can do." Rostova turned, her face half lit by the red emergency lights, her expression unreadable. "You're right," she said. "There's nothing you can do." She pulled on a basic heavy-duty blast suit, a relic compared to the high-tech gear the team normally used. She didn't bother with the helmet's comms link. It was useless anyway. She just grabbed her leather tool roll and walked to the door as it hissed open. She paused at the threshold and looked back at Cole. "Technology breaks," she said softly. "People adapt." And then she was inside. The heavy door sealed behind her, leaving the control room crew to watch in stunned silence through the thick glass. In the flickering red light, her silhouette moved with a purpose and economy that was almost hypnotic. No hesitation, no fear. She knelt before the bomb, unrolling her strange tools. The world shrank to the space inside that glass box. There was just a woman, a bomb, and 90 seconds of borrowed time. Time ceased to exist outside the containment chamber. Inside, it was a brutal tyrant. 00:58. 00:57. Rostova worked with a speed and precision that was inhuman. Her hands, illuminated by the small flashlight mounted on her suit, moved in a blur. She wasn't just defusing a bomb. She was performing surgery on a monster. She used a ceramic probe, listening with her fingertips, feeling the subtle vibrations and temperatures of the device's internal workings. She ignored the primary trigger mechanism, the one the robot had been trying to access. She knew it was a decoy. Her attention was on a series of hair-thin filaments deep within the casing, something the scans hadn't even registered. 00:34. 00:33. In the control room, no one breathed. Cole was pressed against the glass, his face a mask of horror and disbelief. He was watching her use techniques he'd only read about in old textbooks, methods deemed obsolete, too risky. He saw her select a specific tool, a pair of non-conductive cutters, and hover over a junction of wires. It was the point of no return. The wrong wire would complete the circuit, turning the entire facility into a crater. Riley was gripping his console so hard his knuckles were white. He was praying. 00:12. 00:11. Rostova's hand was steady as a surgeon's. She didn't hesitate. There was a small, sharp snip. For a terrifying second, the bomb's red timer flickered and a shower of orange sparks erupted from the wire she'd cut. In the control room, someone screamed, but the device didn't detonate. She wasn't done. There was a secondary, a failsafe. She moved again, her hands a blur of motion, jamming a ceramic wedge into another part of the mechanism, physically isolating the detonator from its power source. 00:03. 00:02. She pulled her hands back. It was done. All she could do now was wait. The entire control room watched the timer, mesmerized by the final, agonizing seconds. The number 001 burned on the screen for what felt like an eternity. Then, it simply went blank. Silence. A deep, profound, beautiful silence. The shrieking alarm was the only sound left. It took a moment for the reality to sink in. Then, a wave of choked sobs and relieved gasps filled the control room. They were alive. The chamber door hissed open, and Rostova walked out, pulling off the heavy helmet. Her face was pale and drenched in sweat, but her eyes were clear. She walked over to a workbench and began taking off her heavy blast gloves. Her hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally wearing off. As she peeled the scorched fabric from her right hand, she winced in pain. Then she tossed the gloves onto the table, and everyone saw it. General Maddox saw it first. His eyes went wide, and he took an involuntary step back, a choked sound escaping his lips. Then Cole saw it, and the last bit of color drained from his face. His jaw hung slack. He stared as if he'd seen a ghost. The entire team fell silent, their relief forgotten, replaced by a new, powerful wave of shock and awe. It was the scars. Her hands, both of them, from the wrist to the knuckles, were covered in a network of raised, silvery, burned scars. They weren't random. They formed a precise, intricate, geometric pattern, like a living circuit board tattooed onto her skin. It was a brand, a mark that only a handful of people in the entire military had ever seen, and a mark that every EOD tech knew from legend. General Maddox found his voice first, a shaky whisper filled with reverence. "The Hades Corps," he breathed. "My God, you're from the Hades Corps." Cole just stared, his mind struggling to process the impossible. The Hades Corps wasn't just a unit. It was a myth. A top-secret Black Ops EOD team from the early days of the Iraq War, sent on suicide missions to defuse the most insidious, unwinnable devices. They were pioneers of manual defusal, artists who worked without tech. The official story was that the entire unit had been wiped out in a single incident in Fallujah years ago. They were all dead. Rostova looked at the general, her expression weary. "We were," she said, her voice quiet but carrying the weight of ghosts. "I'm the only one left." The legend was real, and she was standing right in front of them. Captain Rostova's story is a stark reminder that in an age obsessed with automation and artificial intelligence, the most powerful processor is still the one between our ears. True expertise isn't about having the most expensive tool. It's about what you do when all the tools break. Her scarred hands, marked by trial and fire, represented a level of commitment and skill that no machine could ever replicate. They were a testament to the irreplaceable power of human intuition, courage, and experience. This whole situation makes you think, doesn't it? Have you ever been in a situation where the old way of doing things proved to be the best way, despite everyone pushing for a high-tech solution? Or maybe you've seen someone like Cole, so blinded by the promise of technology that they forget the value of fundamental human skill. In your own life or career, what is one skill that you believe can never and should never be replaced by a machine? If this story about courage under fire and the triumph of skill resonated with you, do us a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe for more stories about the quiet heroes who get the job done. Share this video with someone who understands that true strength isn't always shiny and new. We read every single comment, and we want to hear your thoughts on this. There are more stories about elite military operators waiting for you right on the screen. Check those out next, and I'll see you tomorrow with another incredible story of when training and instinct defeated impossible odds. Until then, remember that the most valuable weapon is the person wielding it.